Yes, so you pronounced it correctly. The name is Yaron. So thank you very much, Theodora, for the great presentation. You talked at the very end briefly about the smart meters. And I have, one electrical smart meter outside of my house wall from Eversource, and I have also water smart meter in my basement. Can you please elaborate a little bit more? How can I get rid of them, or what action do I need to do in order to get them out of my house?
Where do you live?
I'm living in Ashland, Massachusetts.
Okay, so you have to find out if you have the option to opt out of the smart meter in your community with your power company. In some states, it's free to actually replace that with a non radiating meter. And in other places, you have to pay a fee, which is unconscionable, but that's what's happening now. So find out if you can opt out. Now, when you first call the company, I'm going to warn everyone here, the person on the phone might not know what you're talking about and often tries to dissuade people from opting out. But what you need to ask for, if you can, is an analog meter. And you don't want the smart meter, you don't want a digital meter, you want an analog meter. Now, I have a problem in my community where I can't get an analog meter anymore. I used to have it, I've moved 3 times. I paid the fee 3 times, the $75 fee. I pay $15 every month. But there are organizations in your community, Stop Smart Meter groups or the 5G group, and they will have that information, what you can do in your community to opt out, because you can get more. And don't, please, if you have a meter on your home, don't have your bedroom where you have your bed right up against that wall that has the meter.
Thank you, Theodora. Up next, we have Mary. Mary, if you'd go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Theodore. Thanks so much for this great presentation. I'm a recent almost victim of a practice that's going on in the highly dense population where I lived. And that is that these guys are walking around interviewing apartment dwellers and trying to get permission to put 5G meters on the roofs of large apartment buildings. I moved from the building because my board wanted to put meters on our roof, and I had the top floor apartment. And I just wanted to let people know that's happening. And I have a single question related to the hopeless feeling I have, which is, how can we make any progress when industry is doing the studies and is hand in hand with government and in a position to bankrupt government when they sue government for not letting them put up their various devices?
That's right. I mean, I will tell you, I have talked to many people who are that top dweller on an apartment building that have gotten very sick from those antennas going on top, dizziness, headache, sleepiness. So how do we address this? Many hands make light work. This is one of those, well, all of these issues require everyone getting involved in the issue. I do believe we will get there. We are making progress because industry is starting to fight back. For a while, they were ignoring this issue. Now they are fighting back with their deep pockets, with educational campaigns about how safe this is, but continuing to put the science out. Talk to your local officials, organize with people in your community on this. And I realize that people are going to say, oh, it's safe. I went to the FDA, I went to the CDC, it's safe. But there are people in every state that are working on this issue. And the more people who are determined, because I'm going to say nothing's going to stop me. This is what I'm working on. And someone might say, oh, I close that door, I go to another door. That's how we're going to get this. We have changes happening. So I know industry has deep pockets, but the truth is going to come out. But we must keep pushing.
Thank you, Theodora. Up next, we have Michael. Michael, if you can unmute, please.
Hi, Theodora. Thank you for all the work that you do. So I have a practical question. I think that relates to all this here, relating to smartphones. I called a major telecom company asking if these 5G phones, the 5G enabled phones, if you just switch the toggle off, because they said you could switch it off, whether the phone itself would still come in contact or communicate with the cell towers that are the new 5G ones. And they said, no, you won't have a problem. Put me on hold. Came back and said, because I said, what if someone is sensitive to EMF? I'm not, but I was just asking. He said, yeah, then maybe don't get the 5G enabled phones. So I'm wondering, are there is there a guide or resource out there for all the phones, smartphones that one may entertain switching to if they're due for an upgrade that wouldn't have additional radiation as a result of being in contact with the new 5G infrastructure?
This is a very good question. And several years ago, there used to be ratings that we did, and you can certainly go online and find the SAR limits for various phones. But that, at this point, we don't recommend that anymore because what we do recommend, because it's gotten so complicated with all the new models. The new 5G phones will have numerous antennas. They'll have Wi-Fi, two Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. The 5G antennas could be 5 or 6 antennas on each phone, and cellular network, all kinds of antennas on one phone. We recommend not upgrading to 5G as much as possible. There are hundreds of models, so we can't recommend one or the other. But what we're finding is that the more technology advances, the more antennas and the harder it is to turn them off. So you were saying, well, could I just turn it off? So let me say 2 things to that. If you have a cell phone and you have to use it for work and you're still, you're on the journey of learning how to reduce exposure, one tip is turn the phone antennas off you're not using. If you're only using cellular, have it on speaker, but make sure the Bluetooth's off, the Wi-Fi's off, the hotspot's off. Turn off all those other antennas. With 5G, these phones are just coming out now. I know Apple's coming out with a new 5G phone. I don't know if they can be turned off and if they'll stay off. There are new phones now where when you turn it off, it comes back on when you restart the phone. So for every phone you have, turn off what you're not using and check that each time. Sometimes the older phones are easier to stay off, but I wish I could make a recommendation. This is why it's so important that everyone take action so that we can have meaningful policy change. The personal things we do are going to be helpful and reduce exposure, but they will not solve our problem. They won't adequately and fully reduce to the levels we need to get to. We actually have to shift the laws that we have in the United States government. And we have to call on our manufacturers. Anyone on this call who wants to start a campaign like they, boycott 5G phones or hey, Apple, don't put that 5G antenna in my phone. I don't want 5G. We have to start pressuring our companies to create devices that have hardware and software changes that protect people, that reduce exposure, that can be hardwired. You can actually hardwire your phone with an Ethernet for many models. I don't know about the new ones, the new ones that are just coming out now, but for the older models, you can turn all the antennas off, plug it in with an Ethernet, and do everything except make voice calls. So when my daughter's friends come over, who all are Instagram and all this social media insanity that's happening, they connect to the wire so that in my home, I don't have all these cell phones on all the time, and I have a wire available. You have to get an adapter for it.